Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Squad Academy. Yes. I feel like what I'm about to say. I feel like I say this every time, but guys, we're sorry. We took another break. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I mean, Edosa. This is all on Edosa. I'm not going to take the blame on this because Edosa is the one that's busy, but he will explain himself in a bit, right? But guys, we're back. We're back, and funny enough is. I think you guys are gonna love what we have for you today because we're trying something different. And you guys are gonna see it's gonna be clear today to see what we're trying. So we hope you guys like it. But guys, it feels good to be back. Edosa, how you feeling? Talk to me.
Doing good, man. I know. I mean, I know you apologize for us, but I don't think we should apologize. It was very restful. We needed to take a step back. I think last weekend I reached out to the I was like, let's not rush it. Let's give them quality, right? So we wanted to take a step back and make sure that every time you give us a second of your time, you will get it. So welcome back, guys.
Well said. Well said. Well said. So, guys, pretty much the approach we'll be taking today is we know primarily we've been focused on the African tech ecosystem. And a lot of the things that Adusa said now is just about we taking a step back to really strategize and come up with a new path. Has to do with where we're trying to move with Squad, right? We're still here. We're still focusing on African tech ecosystem. That's not going anywhere. But at the same time, we're looking at what our next step is going to be, and we're trying to put all the pieces together. So that means certain changes have to be made, right? And that's what we're here for. Nothing is constant in life, right? At some point, you got to take a step back and look at where you're moving. But for the next couple of months or years or whatever it is, we don't know what the exact timeline will be, but just know moving forward, we'll be focusing more on the US market as well, because this is where we understand that this is also a very opportunistic environment. So a lot of the topics we'll be talking about will be on the investment, startup tech, PE landscape in the US as well. Try to touch on these areas. We'll be bringing guests on the podcast as well, who are experts in this industry to not just enlighten you guys, but to also enlighten us as well as we go on this journey. So, guys, we're all going to be learning together, right? So, guys, we welcome you to join us on this journey and let us know, give us your feedback. It's been really helpful. It's what's gotten us to this stage that we are right now. So, we really welcome it. So, guys, we love it. We love it. Let's get going. So, getting into the topic for today, right? We have three topics. Three topics. First one is you guys already know about this one. I feel like it's been in the news all week. A lot of people have shared perspectives on it, right? Some folks are like, our First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, this and that and that. Some other folks are like, nah, this platform is a little bit sketchy. I don't trust exactly the I mean pretty much I don't trust what the underlying approach is or whoever is behind this platform. But what I'm talking about TikTok, right? So there was a bill that just passed the House of Representatives. Um, overwhelmingly was being voted. I mean, overwhelmingly the vote was for the bill. And it was clearly a non. I mean, it was clearly a bipartisan support for this bill. Um, to ban TikTok, right? And we'll talk about that, right? And what the future could look like if this bill could get past the Senate and get signed by the president. Then after that, we'll talk about Reddit. Reddit is currently planning to IPO. This is a startup or company that has been in operation for 19 years. And they are now edging closer towards the IPO. So we'll talk about that. Talk about some of the numbers and what they're looking to get from that IPO and what it could potentially look like for them when they eventually go public. And after that, we'll round up with Apple and some of the settlements that they've made with the Chinese government over some issues that they have going on. This week, March 13th to be precise, the House of Rep voted in a landslide. I think it was 352 to 60 something votes to pretty much ban TikTok. Aiming to force ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, to divest its ownership due to concerns over data security and Chinese influence. And like I said, this bill kind of shows the bipartisan support that it has both in the Senate and in the House as well. Now there might, I mean, there are a few folks who have kind of showed concerns in the Senate about this, but I do believe if you get when it eventually goes to the Senate, there might be a few tweaks here and there to the bill, but ultimately it looks like it will get the support it needs to pass the Senate. I mean, that's my own guess on it. President Biden has already said that if this bill was to land on his desk, he would sign it. So he's already just letting us know what the deal is. So I mean, and I think the more interesting thing about this is the current for the current climate that we find ourselves in, where everything is so polarizing. To see if this kind of bill gets support on both sides just shows that there's some kind of concern, right, within the government. So, but having said that, because I know some folks might wonder what TikTok is saying. So TikTok has denied any allegations of sharing user data with the Chinese government, but still faces scrutiny over its ties to China and potential national security risks. Um, Now, like I already said, of course, various stakeholders, including legislators, users, and civil rights, have expressed concerns and their views on this proposed ban and its implications. Um, Having said that, I mean, it's good to, I mean, it's first, it's, I mean, just to just point out for those who don't know about TikTok, I mean, it's a company that is based, I mean, it's owned by ByteDance, and I believe the Chinese government has a 1% stake ownership in the company. But ByteDance is a Chinese company. However, this whole issue kind of really became a problem last year when the ByteDance CEO, is this Shou Chu? I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly, but the ByteDance CEO was invited to Congress, and to a lot of people, I mean the whole hearing was shambolic, right? Because the CEO couldn't give certain confirmations or certain, I mean, still couldn't give certain confirmations around how ByteDance or how TikTok operated as a company, right? So I think since then there's been a lot of more investigations that's now led to this bill that's currently being tried to pass. Um, Having said that, former Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin has expressed interest, and he had an interview on CNBC this week, and he expressed, I mean, this is capitalism at its best, man. And he expressed his interest in forming a cohort of investors, right, to buy TikTok, but owning its US arm, not the entire TikTok, right? So, like I already said, this bill still has to go to the Senate, and it's a very complicated process. And for those who might be wondering, what the timeline looks like. I mean, like I said, if this bill was to get signed by the president, then that means ByteDance would have 6 months, sorry, to divest in its investment in TikTok US, and have a US entity buy it, right? So if it doesn't meet that timeline in 6 months, then it gets completely banned, and all app stores, whether it's Apple or Google or Android, would have to drop it from the app stores. So this whole thing is still going to play out, because keep in mind, this is not the first time that the US has tried to ban TikTok. This happened in 2020 as well, when Trump was at his last year of his presidency. This was something he really spoke about then. He really tried to ban them, but the Chinese government also filed a lawsuit that eventually saw to the end of that whole situation. And of course, the new presidency came in as well, right? So that's also something to keep in mind. However, with this new one, there's been new allegations, there's been new concerns, especially with the ongoing um conflicts or the ongoing issues with the Chinese government and the US government. And when you see a lot of things that are happening I mean, to how TikTok is so powerful in influencing the younger ones today. I mean, you can talk about you can talk about the average age of people that use the app. You can talk about the amount of time that people spend on the app. I think compared to Instagram, people spend about 50% more time on TikTok. right? Funny enough, I don't have TikTok on my phone, right? I do not have TikTok on my phone. I mean, those are,
Yes.
yeah, I don't see what
You
would
should
really take.
even.
I don't have, and to be honest, I don't. I mean, and this probably has nothing. This probably has little to do with what the Chinese government could be doing. Um, I just, I just spend little to no time on it on social media, man. I mean, I just I know this. Maybe I'll just go and I just check some funny stuff, close it. Like, but like the moment I find myself doing too much on social media, which happens sometimes, I'll be honest, like that at some point I find myself waking up and first thing I just opened his Instagram just to go and look at funny videos. And I was like, that's a problem, man. And I had to stay away from that app, right?
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, TikTok is even worse, right? It's way more addictive, right? And I think that that's the one thing that the US government is probably concerned about, in the sense that they're seeing how powerful this tool is. And if we're being honest, on the social media side of things, they probably have the most sophisticated algorithm, right?
Oh yeah.
Especially when it comes to recommending, when it comes to reading user behaviors and recommending videos and materials that kind of tend to your own preferences, right? They probably have one of the best algorithms. They've seen how powerful it is. They probably have fears and concerns around how the Chinese government could influence the Americans, right? When it comes to times of politics or whatever it is. And it's kind of also kind of ironic that TikTok is not present, there's no TikTok in China. They do have something, but it's not TikTok, right? And it also pushes educational content and things that are actually like very useful, right? So, but having said that, and I just I'll pass it on to you in a bit to just share your own concerns before we dive into the actual um numbers. But having said that, TikTok does have 150 million users, right, in the US. And Instagram, that is so huge over the years, has 169.5 million users. So you can see how close they are. You can see that TikTok is a fast growing platform, ridiculously, right? So fast, right? I mean, last year they did about $39.5 billion in global revenue, right? So this is a huge company, right? And I believe, I'm not sure about the exact numbers, but a huge amount of those users are based in the US, right? Because they don't have it in China. Right, they don't have it in China, right? Um, yeah, so a huge amount of that is based in the US. So this over to you. Like, what's your thought on this, right? Because the people who are saying that like I mean that taking these guys away is taking away our freedom of speech, our freedom of choice, and everything. That we should be allowed to use it. And there are those who are saying if there are legit security concerns, if this is a national security risk behind this platform, or even if not today, but the potential of some kind of national security risk, then we should be addressing it right now and trying to do everything that we can to prevent that from happening. But what's your take on this?
Yeah.
Are
I
you
mean,
for, are
thanks.
you
Thanks.
for the ban or against the ban, first of all?
I'm in that little gray area where people call the fence. But I have some interesting thoughts and perspectives, and obviously, thanks for like breaking it down, catching me up to speed on what's been going on with TikTok. The first thing that keeps my mind is, Facebook. What's China's policy on Facebook? And I found out that China, like we all know, China banned Facebook and a couple other um, US founded social media platforms a while back. I know everybody knows Google struggle with China as well. So China has, and other countries, Uganda, North Korea. I know that's not a good group of countries to be associated with, but
Mhm.
they also have social media bans in one form or the other, right? And interestingly enough, TikTok itself, in the form we know TikTok as, is
Yeah,
banned in China,
yeah,
right? So that got me interested. You know what? So I guess the Chinese government stipulated for the same company, ByteDance, that if you want this platform, create a sister company and build it to these guidelines. And that's what they did. Douyin, that's like the TikTok sister app that operates in China.
Mhm.
So in using that lens to look at it, in fairness, US as its own sovereign can also stipulate its
Yeah,
requirement. If it's not comfortable with how TikTok as it currently is operates in America, um, it could, like you said, it could provide guidelines that they must follow, algorithms that they must tweak, right? And entirely a separate entity that they're comfortable with, just like China did, right? That's that's a valid route. The second route, which I think is looking like it's more popular given the momentum that Steve Mnuchin is going with, is like, you know what, not nationalize, but privatize the U.S. arm of TikTok under U.S. ownership, U.S.
Yeah.
private ownership. Like private people in the U.S. can buy that, and I think any of the two, right? Just like China did, I think it's, I guess, why it sounds weird and triggering is because U.S. the Western world is seen to be very open, transparent, pro-capitalism. So this looks very unusual for a capitalistic state. But in line with what other countries have done, and even where the app itself came from is doing, and in line with national interest, national security, if the US thinks this is the right path, then I can't completely fault them for going after their best interest. The small concern in everybody's ear or my ear or some skepticism will always be, is this just you know, lobbying so that that way, is this private individuals, private investors lobbying to get this out the door so that that way they they now own and enjoy this, you know, lucrative app called TikTok? Because at the core, people will argue that Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even whatever the new form of TikTok would look like if it's US owned, will still do the same thing, which is intrusive access to data. Right. So is the problem or is the sin not intrusive access to data, but just rather who has owns that data? So would we prefer US private equity owning like our selfies, or we prefer Chinese government owning our selfies? I think either scenario is wrong, you know. So, but it doesn't look like we're attacking that. We're attacking just who owns it. We're not attacking the other aspect of it, like why are they even having this unrestricted access and yeah, to our private lives essentially. So it's interesting. I think there are two arguments going under the hood, but one is front facing, the other is, you know, in the background. And of all of this, money is just the most commonality.
I think it's a fair concern. The one thing that would make me disagree on if it is private, because it did cross my mind at first, like private entities kind of lobbying for this so that they can acquire it for their own good. Is usually when that happens, I mean, when that happens, you normally see some kind of partisan view on it, right? Especially in the House. You either see for or against. But in this case, it's so bipartisan, right? I mean, like in the House, it got like 50 and 0. Like it was 50 and 0, right? I think the House of
Well,
MD.
that the lobbyist firm did a very good job.
Hey, I mean, I'll need those people's contacts, man. I need that contact. So, but it was 50 and 0, and the total house, it was about 352 to 65 votes or something. Usually it's almost split, right? But this is so bipartisan. Like folks are just like, yeah, this needs to be out the door. Um, so yeah, and when you think about it, is like it makes sense. Like if there's a potential of some kind of national security risk, that should be out the door. For those who are saying we need our freedom of speech, I mean, you shouldn't dictate what we can use or what we can't use. Then there's the viewpoint that TikTok should divest its US side, right? It should make that, it should sell that to a US entity. Now the problem is I do not see the Chinese government buckling to that. That would never happen. I don't see a world where the Chinese government would sell that TikTok technology to a US entity. There's no way. Like, first of all, like this is for a Chinese government that has tried to find a way to really portray and really push some kind of message to the outside world. They've always found some kind of technology that will really make them stand out on a global basis. Um, they have been able to finally reach that point, right? With TikTok. I think TikTok is probably the first platform that has really like blown globally. A lot of the technology is usually in-house within China, right?
Yeah.
WeChat and stuff is being used, but not on a global basis like this, right? TikTok is that first platform that really gained that kind of traction. So do I think that they would divest the US? No, I don't. There's no word that happens. Now this is going to be a legal battle. I mean, there's no way the Chinese government will just sit back on the laurels and let this happen. The same way they fought in 2020, they'll probably fight this. Um, and they'll probably go to court and everything. But I mean, if the USA is going to ban it, it's going to ban it, right? And if I'm being honest, if I'm giving my own viewpoint on this, I think I think they should ban it. I mean, I think they should ban it. I mean, because when I look at how folks are, dude, like I'm not trying to like shut up anyone's freedom of speech or anything, but or like freedom of choice, but dude, this platform is too addictive, man. Like it is like I've seen folks talk
The
about
whole
how
user experience, like the whole screen is content, right? They
dude,
really
like
maximize it for your attention.
and the fact that the Chinese government doesn't even allow this platform in their own country is literally this says it all. Like it just like we're all here just distracted by the I mean to me nonsense we're being spewed every day. And don't get me wrong, I've seen some funny videos from TikTok on Instagram, and this stuff is funny, right? It's fun, and clearly the algorithm it's so good that folks just find the need to be on that platform, right? Like whenever I tell people I don't have TikTok or I've never downloaded TikTok, they're usually surprised, like, bro, like come on, bro, go download that. I'm like, dude, I already have enough vices, man. I already have Instagram there. I'm trying to let go of Instagram. I don't need that one, right? But yeah, so I think there's a case. I get what people are saying about not divesting, but honestly, I'm for the ban, man. I'm for the ban. But if it's to look past that, I'm looking at the actual, and I'm sure, I mean, our audience will probably have a few things to say about my own choice, but that's fine. But looking right into the into the and into the actual numbers, because I want us to talk about what this could potentially mean, right? If someone could acquire it. We already talked about Steve Mnuchin, who has expressed interest and want to acquire it. Um, Going back to the point you made about big tech, maybe they might be looking at this or having their eyes open for this kind of potential opportunity. The likes of Meta, Microsoft, who else is there? Maybe Oracle, because Oracle was one of the folks that expressed interest in 2020.
Yeah.
So I think Walmart was also expressed interest, but I think Meta, there's no way Meta will be allowed to acquire it. Just look at it. I mean, first of all, antitrust laws just knock them out, right?
Knock it
They already own WhatsApp, they already own Instagram. There's no way they'll be allowed to acquire it, right? Now, if you look at Microsoft, I mean, they're currently, I mean, with all the legal battles they're facing with OpenAI, and how they acquired that and what they might be doing with that, I don't think there would be I mean, there'll be a strong case for them to own this, although they might have interest in it because they expressed interest back in 2020, right? But with everything going on right now with OpenAI, I don't know if there'll be a viable candidate for this. Now that going then of course, we're looking at big tech, right? Then of course you're looking at Oracle. Funny enough, Oracle is an interesting one um because a while ago, TikTok actually said that if there's concerns around the data being leaked to the Chinese government and Chinese government, then what they could do was to move all their servers and the data to the
yeah.
US using Oracle, right? But if I've been, I don't trust that. I don't trust that, man. Like, I mean, like for someone who is non-technical, that might sound fun and nice. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm just moving everything to the US, but it doesn't work that way, man. Like, there's so many lines of code and everything that will need to be moved, right? And who's really down there, really reviewing every single thing or knowing what exactly is there? Because it's still one company. You're just saying you're just moving your data servers and when your data has been captured to another country. There's no way you can verify that every single thing goes to the US side, right? So I just wouldn't trust that. Um, but yeah, Oracle is one candidate, but outside of the tech side, looking on the PE side of things, right? Because I know a lot of PE firms be licking their hands right now, dude. Which candidates do you think will be viable for this kind of platform? Both big tech or which firms, both big tech and PE or VC? No, this won't be VC. This will be
Yeah,
PE.
this will be VC size. Maybe the top two VCs, maybe, but like this would definitely be tech, PE, and media. So the CNNs, the Fox, the New York Times, Washington
Please,
Post,
please, please.
potential. the
Please
potential of
don't put me there. Please don't put me there, man, because they will just, oh man, oh my God.
exactly
They will
to
kill this
push back
stuff.
into the portfolio. You get
Yeah, they will kill it, man. They
so
will,
the US is not short of capital and not short of capital players, both strategic investors and pure play investors like PE. It will definitely. That's why. And Steve Mnuchin, given his this is the former US Secretary of State. I mean, he has the contacts, the network to pull this off. In a week if it comes to it, right? And there's already the appetite for it. It's not like he's selling a bad deal. It's basically trying to pull a team together for a very attractive deal. And being in the government previously, then you have that combination of capital and enough legislative to push this through. Essentially, it's interesting. And then who will be opposed to it? I see. I don't know if. What do you think? I don't know if Meta will feel more relieved or stressed out with TikTok being on, because TikTok is that serious competitor. So would they feel, if you're in Zuckerberg's position, would you prefer your competitor to be Chinese backed or now US backed?
that's a very good question. I don't know. I don't know. Because then again, how would I even work? Because if they end up selling the US arm, right? Because I was gonna say it depends because Instagram or Meta, I guess we're talking about Instagram now, not necessarily just Meta as a
Yeah.
whole. Instagram is a global platform, right? It is a global platform. If ByteDance was to divest TikTok, right? And the US side gets up being bought up by a US entity, does that mean it's just strictly within the US, or are they allowed to also expand globally?
I'm
Right.
sure I'm sure the the stipulations of that kind of sale will be restricted geographically, just because TikTok as a company still exists. They're not selling their American operation, so they won't want to go and sell to a buyer that's trying to now expand. And I'm already in Canada. Why are you trying to open in Canada? TikTok is already there. So
But
I
those,
think go on.
I mean, you'd be surprised, there'll always be ways around it. There'll always be legal ways, right? They can.
What you could probably be betting on is that once that happens and the sale happens, Canada's legislators will start saying the same thing. Let's ban TikTok, right? Or let's privatize it. Then they will
That's
that
what I'm
the
gonna say.
idea of
Yeah,
private.
yeah. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. That's
So that people could be seeing that trend and they could try to go ahead of that. You're right. So they probably avoid agreeing.
and I think that's what they're trying to, and I think maybe that's why they're trying to fight this because every other country now could take the same stance, right, and say, man, this is not gonna work. But then again, we can't fool ourselves and say that the Chinese government doesn't have a say because we've all seen the kind of influence that the Chinese government has on every single private company in that country, even the
Yeah.
public ones in that country. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
you go back and look at what they did to Alibaba.
Yep. Yep.
Jack Ma thought he was so powerful. My guy went missing for some days, man, some weeks. He was first missing, and now look at Alibaba as a company, dude. They're bleeding. They're bleeding right now. I mean, they've been forced to. I think. I think they found out that they were too powerful or something. They've been forced to break down, right? Or like split the companies into like different arms. All right. So
Governments, man.
yeah. So it just shows how the kind of influence the Chinese government has on companies, right, in that country. And ByteDance is not. I mean, ByteDance is not special in that case. I mean, they do have that influence.
Exactly.
They have to play ball. And maybe that's something that every country must start looking at if the US was to pass this kind of bill and ban TikTok. But then again, just looking at American capitalism, I don't see a world where they would acquire it and be okay with just
Just
running
being a US.
in the US. They would want
Yeah.
to expand, man. I'm telling you, the greed of capitalism, man. They want to expand, especially when they see how good that technology is and how that algorithm works. They would
Yeah.
find a way to legally expand to the
I
rest
mean,
of
because look at it, if you acquire TikTok America, then in search for growth, you now acquire Snapchat Global. Then now the same company owns a global platform,
the.
and you already can see how already TikTok in America is now global. So
Yep.
there's so many ways they can really
They'll
spin
find
it.
a way. They'll find a
Yeah,
way to spin it. They'll find a way to spin it. But yeah, so I think so. It'll be good to just follow this closely. I think more of the story is I'm for the ban. You are kind of in the middle, right? You're kind of in the
yeah.
middle. Okay. So I'm the only one with full chest on this podcast. That's fine.
On this topic in particular.
On this topic. We'll take it like that. No worries. No worries. But yeah, so I mean, over the next couple of weeks and months, I do think it will take some time. We'll see. I mean, how this gets. We'll see how this gets treated in the Senate, and eventually, if it gets passed, then I mean, if it gets past the Senate, then I think it's. I mean, it's just good to say it's going to get signed by the president, whoever the president is, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll just wrap it up there for the whole TikTok saga, and we'll follow this closely, and we'll probably feed you guys more updates as the case proceeds. Moving on to the next topic, Reddit. So for those who have been following Reddit closely, it's not news that they're trying to IPO this year. For those who don't know what Reddit is probably one of those old school social media platforms, right? That was kind of created as a joke, just just a couple of friends playing around and creating some kind of platform that they thought would be a nice community for people to just come and share thoughts and talk about things, right? So Reddit was founded in 2005, but it was acquired later by Condé Nast. And just create some context into that because the founders of Reddit didn't actually even believe that it could grow into a platform that was so huge and influential. They actually sold it for quite cheap. I can't remember the exact number, but it was actually quite cheap.
Like
But
in the ballpark, like 6 million.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was dirt cheap, man. Then eventually I think they found a way to acquire the company or something of that sort. But yeah, but I mean, you guys can always go back and read on history already. So I don't know what I did today. But the main thing is they're going to kick off that roadshow this month. And they're looking to raise a total of $748 million out of 6.4 million, out of $6.4 billion valuation, fully diluted, right? They'll be selling around 22 million shares in total, at around $31 to $34 per share. I believe that last private valuation was in 2021,
Yeah.
at a $10 billion valuation. So you can see that actually going, it's more like a down round at the public market. So they're actually going down, and that just shows you where the market is today. 2021, everyone knows what was happening then. Hey, zero interest rates,
Yeah.
everything free,
I think
everything.
that's when they were trying to go public. So it just shows and they thought the market was too bearish at that point. So it's very interesting how this
Yeah.
down round looks like.
But yeah, so I think I'll pass it on to you because I know there are also a few more things we want to talk about as far as the revenue, the loss. And I know this is the company. This company, to my knowledge, is not profitable yet.
It's not
Um,
profitable. Yeah.
so let me pass it on to you, like, because I know there are a few more things we want to touch on.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, spot on. The story of Reddit is interesting. Two young guys, Steve and Alex, founded the company, did great. This was slightly after the dot-com boom, so they came at a more level-headed time. 1999 would have been too much noise and fairy dust. They came when the market had already calmed down from tech, and then they built a company, sold it like after a year. Founded in 2005, sold 2006. Impressive trajectory, right? And but what's interesting about Reddit is that Reddit morphed into is user-generated content like Facebook, like everybody else. But it's very you can joke that it's user generates the content and the label for Reddit.
Yeah.
Right? So you know how there's community filtering and all of that, and that's literally users who dedicated to filtering and managing and umpiring the community of Reddit,
Mhm.
and that has helped Reddit maintain its framework against other social media platforms that people complain about how hate speech, crime, and they need to employ engineers and do all these technical things to spot that. You have Reddit where users are so passionate that they volunteer their time, resources to do that on behalf of the company. So now that the company is going public, it's now an interesting argument that who benefits, who built the company and who should benefit from the company. And you have that interesting debate going on behind them. But beyond that, you also have the story of the company as well. Steve Hoffman came back 6 years after selling the company and became the CEO again. So right now, he's currently the CEO leading the charge to take them public. His total compensation is north of $100 million, whereas the company
Wait,
It is
wait. What is that on an annual basis?
annual basis, at least as of recent, as of 2023. So,
Dude,
so
what
constitution was,
the?
yeah.
Dude,
So
dude,
he's well paid. He's well paid. Yes. But I mean, so that's the story behind them. I mean, what's interesting that TikTok has now been trying to, I say TikTok, Reddit has now been trying to really prepare for the IPO internally, right? So they've stipulated things to make the I think they're going to have some reserve shares for users, people who've been active users of Reddit pre 2024. So they're going to
Mhm.
have for those people to buy into the share. You know, private placement in an IPO literally means um, institutional investors, investment banks, asset managers, they get to actually buy the block of shares first, right,
Mhm.
before the company goes public, like literally the next day, and
Yeah.
everybody now has access to it. So that privilege, they're going to, carve out some of that for Reddit users as well, which I think is one of the attempts to address, their active users and all of that. They've also tweaked, Steve's compensation package ahead of the IPO to show um, more public company compensation package, right? I guess his former compensation package included that if they go public above $25 billion valuation, he gets a hefty bonus for that, just like Elon Musk had for Tesla. But they have not amended that, obviously, because look at the valuation right now; it's very, very far from that. So they're trying to script that out as well. Then also, investors are asking, two things. This is going to be litmus test for tech IPOs. We've had a drought in tech IPOs in the US for a while. So Reddit, sticking an egg out now in an election year, it's it could make or break the IPO market. It's like, okay, are the floodgates open again, or we just saw one guy take a bidding and everybody's closing up shop till next year. That's why the IPO is quite interesting and people are watching it. It already says a lot about the down round, 6 point something billion as opposed to 10 that people were seeing. But that just paints one aspect of a picture. Investors are also concerned about, revenue. Reddit is making, 800 million in revenue as of last year and 91 million in losses, right? So if you just cut off that CEO's revenue, salary,
Oh,
you could have.
dude, like I don't do that. It's blowing my mind, bro. It's like because I'm looking at the numbers. Like you lost $91 million last year. You're trying to go public. Why the hell are you getting paid $100 million? Dude,
Yeah.
like you're valued at $6.4 billion, right? That's your total value, and you're not profitable. Why are you getting paid $100 million per year? I mean, we
I mean,
can
the CEO of the company and that 100 million is free cash flow. His value is very, very close to, 2 billion.
yeah, because I mean, even if you want to say Elon Musk, right? I mean, it's clear why he got. And keep in mind, he never got paid salaries, right? His
Yep.
compensation was always stock options, right? And it was always based off company performance, right? Which is why even when the whole thing happened this year with the rejection of his $55 billion pay package, some shareholders were really pissed because they're like, I mean, if he can build a company to $1 trillion valuation, then he should be able to get paid that amount of money, right? But
Yeah.
at least there's a case for why someone like Musk got that compensation based off how Tesla as a company has grown. Dude, Reddit is not profitable as a company.
Yep.
Why didn't
Very
getting
scary. Very scary. And what's more concerning for investors is was the line of new revenue coming from?
That's
That's what
not a
like
good revenue.
most of it was advertising, and they are not the hottest sites
They're
for
not.
advertising. You
They're
get
not.
so people are really concerned about where it will come from.
Advertisements look advertisements look really because I use Reddit. I use
Yeah,
Reddit. And it pisses me off when I see ads on that platform. Because I'm just like, it's a really community-driven kind of platform. Like if you use it, and let me just make this very clear. Reddit is a really good platform. If you're looking to get information, if you're looking to get a lot of things, hot topics, if you're ready to dive into and create communities and engage with people on things you're working on, I've used Reddit a lot in the past, right? Just for I'm working on the same project, I need information on certain things in a very specific niche, and there are always communities within those areas. Funny enough, there are always communities, and the mindset there is different. People actually want to help and engage, so it's a good platform. But I don't want to see ads. Like I don't want to see
yeah. it's like they've done so good at creating that utopian social media that we're like, yo, keep it that way. You
Yeah.
get like
Yeah, I don't want to
when
see it.
when Facebook starts, Instagram starts, we all know that this is very commercial. We enjoy it, but we know that this is business. But we're ready to give that very hipster, authentic vibe that
Yeah.
it's going to be so hard to turn it to a commercial structure. You have to
Yeah,
almost break the entire fabric of what Reddit means.
exactly. Exactly.
So they're kind of stuck. You have value, which is users, but can you convert them to cash? It's
Yeah.
very, very
It's very hard. It's kind of like Netflix saying they want to start doing ads on Netflix as well, just to drive their revenue. Well, good luck to
yes.
them. We'll see how that turns out. But talking
Yeah.
about the deals, right? Because I know they recently signed a $60 million deal with Google.
Okay.
And the whole idea of the deal is Google will use the data on their platform, so use the data and everything to train their AI models, right?
Yeah.
And that's I mean, that's just a clear $60 million pipeline right there. But is that enough? That's not enough. I mean,
That's
like,
like knowing the contract is going to be over a period of time. So 16 million over 3 years. So that is 20 in a year out of your 800 million. You're not really a drop in the ocean. But it also says something about just what we talk about them trying to get creative to monetize, right? And would this hurt the company in terms of the users? Would they say F Reddit's governance? Why are they trying to sell our data and start, laying back? So they're so stuck, I think, in what they can do versus how their users will react.
they have to find a way.
Yeah,
They'll have to
and
find, they'll have to find a way.
they give users so much power because literally your community filtering is done by volunteer users. That means if they all should form a union today, they're not under your staffing, they're not under anything. They can literally hold the company by the balls. It's a
It's a unique,
very,
it's
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 very,
a unique approach. It's a very unique
yeah,
approach. It's a very unique approach. And that could kind of affect how, I mean, it's definitely gonna affect the structure of the company itself, right? Because yeah, maybe they'll need to like take one or two things from Meta and how, I mean, if there's one person in modern era who has been able to find a way to monetize social media platforms, it has to be Mark Zuckerberg. Now,
yes,
do I agree with his approach and everything? No, I mean, the way our data is being used and sold. But then again, I can say that about all social media platforms. I
yeah.
mean, Zuck is probably just the one that's being targeted all the time. A lot of the social media platform use our data. Even Apple, and so Apple uses our data too. Like a lot of these guys are data anyways. Um, so but yeah, Zuckerberg is definitely one person that has figured out a way to monetize stuff, which is why this whole WhatsApp thing, I'm like, just give it some time. He'll find a way to figure it out. He'll find a way to monetize that stuff, right? Now Reddit by itself, I don't do it. They'll need to find a way to monetize that stuff because is the platform good? Absolutely. Are we getting to a point where there are just too many social media platforms? Clearly, it's just a lot, right? And can we monetize every single one to the level that the likes of Meta has monetized theirs? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know, right? Um, I mean, there'll be some major winners, there'll be some major losers. There'll be some that will just remain there for a while. And it looks like in Reddit's 19 years of operations, they haven't found a way to really monetize that platform.
Just being stable.
It's just been coasting. If feel like it's just been coasting. I think what they did last year was they dropped the to sorry, they kind of dropped their capex, right? They kind of dropped the capex, they kind of reduced the operating loss, right, over the course of the whole year to $91 million. But
And that's basically dressing for an IPO. Any
yeah,
person can do that.
exactly. Mostly for the IPO, right? So have they actually grown the revenue? I don't think so, no. No, and they don't find a way to really grow that revenue, man. Because $60 million from Google is not enough. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's not enough, man. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's one to follow closely. I mean, they're gonna start a road show. Um, would you do you see any do you see any long-term opportunity here? Like, is it a stock that you look into buying? No.
No, definitely. I won't be a buyer on this. I don't believe they haven't shown anything that um tickers towards growth. So yeah, so that's my position. I'm not buying because I don't think they're going where they think they're going. But on the sidelines, I think somebody can be slightly optimistic that thank God, are doing something different. They're going public. Public puts them under pressure to deliver, meaning fire the CEO is not working, change management. So that could be the self-inflicted kick that they give themselves to finally have some motivation to deliver on results, right? If not, it will also be a self-inflicted implosion because the market will brutally alienate that value, right? If you don't keep to pace. So something is definitely going to happen. You get, but I'm not. It's just too much of a coin toss that I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not buying it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. Because you can get away with a lot when you're private, but when you're public does not care about it. They don't care about your emotions. They don't care about anything. All they
Yeah.
want is numbers, man. Numbers, numbers, numbers. So yeah, when they go public, it will be brutal. That compensation will be cut short for sure. I promise you. That CEO compensation. But yeah, so yeah, we'll follow this Reddit one closely. More than likely this year they'll go public. I mean, if they're starting a roadshow in March, there's a high chance they'll go public this year. And I think that's the
Yeah.
plan.
And definitely before election. So we're probably looking at
Exactly.
summer public listening, or even before summer because trading releases in the summer. So interesting either way.
Yeah. So yeah, so we'll follow that one closely. See how that goes. But yeah, moving on to the last topic. This one I'll pass it on to you because this is something that I know you wanted to talk about. Apple. I feel like they've been in the news a lot recently, man. The stock is
Yeah.
going down to like 160, $160 or so. They had an AI launch, a couple of months or weeks ago. It was an absolute shambles. The AI was seen as not being neutral. It was kind of leaning to one side over the other. It was seen as being too woke, right? They're like, oh, when AI goes too woke. They've had the whole legal battle with the Apple Watch and how he was a ban placed on them to stop selling the Apple Watch with that technology. So I think they found a way, a supply chain way to circumvent the whole thing while not infringing on that technology. So it's feel like they've been in the news a lot recently that, like I said, our stock is going down. Um Moving on to you, it seems like there's something else going on there with the whole Chinese government and them settling some cases. Please fill me in on this. What's going on?
Yeah. I mean, it's just a classic case of um, communication, internal relations communication, and how investors react to forward guidance. As people know, once you go public, you are expected to not just provide your financials on time, your audited statements, your Q10s, your 10Ks and 10Qs rather, periodically, quarterly, and at the end of every year. You're also expected, I won't say required, I don't think it's SEC required, but you're also expected to provide guidance before the earnings drops, even guidance way ahead. And I think that's personally, I think that puts a lot of pressure on publicly traded companies. And that's why many companies don't even want to go public because they're like, the governance, the reporting requirements are a start power, and that increases your audit bill and all those different. You pay all the consultants to do that for you, but just increases that bill for no reason, right? But this concept, they expect the management to provide guidance before the earnings. So the investors are saying, don't surprise us. You're going to provide the financial statements next week. Give us some guidance with pretty teasers before it comes out. I'm like, that's too much, right? Then once it comes out, you also jump on an earnings call with us, explain it to us, right? And anything you say, do, speak, don't do, right, can affect the stock price during this period, right? And just based on that posturing, investors can say, hey, you did this in negligence, we're suing you guys for that. Or you didn't tell us about this, we're suing you for that. Or we thought this was material, but you didn't talk about it in the call or in your guidance, we're suing you for that. So Apple is no stranger to that. And this is why many people on the board have directors insurance. So no matter what they say, the insurance company comes in
Yeah.
for that. But in November 2018, Tim Cook was on record for saying that, iPhone, Apple expects strong revenue at the end of 2018. They expect strong iPhone sales as well, right? This was all he was saying during an earnings call while China was experiencing economic decline. China was experiencing hostile trade relations with the US, right? So almost every other company, why this is important, because almost every other tech company was posturing bearish, right, in regards to China and saying, okay, we don't think we're going to make that much money from China this year. Obviously, the trade relations is ongoing, strain. There's China is going through its own depression or its own economic hardship. And well, Apple is here speaking quite like, oh no, this is going to be a walk in the park. This is going to be the same thing. Expect the same thing. And rightfully so, investors react to that. They say, okay, fine, we're bullish on Apple. We maintain our positions, or they add that to that calibration, right?
Mhm.
Then January the next year, 2019 January, it was very clear that the revenue guidance was off by as much as 9 billion, right?
Like
And
higher or lower?
lower. So it was off by as much as 9 billion. So they didn't meet their targets, right?
For iPhones
And
alone or annual revenue? Total revenue.
most annual revenue, right?
Okay.
And what's it called? And just a week after Tim Cook made that statement, right, they cut back on production, right, for iPhones. Meaning for them to do that, they're also saying that sales are not going to be as they're forecasting that one as well.
Mhm.
So this led the investor to feel like you had the information available to you even during the call
Within
of
this.
a of a depressed revenue, but he didn't disclose it to us, right? And I think it was led by a UK investor group, and they led like a whole class action suit against Apple, which led to that was beginning on court for the past 2 years, and Apple finally settled $490 million, right, on this case. And it's still, I think they just have one more level. I think the California court has to just sign on that, but it's pretty much 90% over the fence, right?
So,
And
so,
yeah,
so,
sure.
so pretty much long story short, it's just a bunch of beta investors who are sad that they lost money. So they're trying to make up their portfolio. They're trying to make up their balance sheets now for the money that they've lost.
Exactly. And well, you hit this point because somebody else said that I think it was an investor relations expert. They said this was a small gain for a small group of investors, but a big loss for the entire investment industry because every other company seeing this would also say, you know what, we're not issuing guidance. As a company, we don't issue guidance because we're not required to. So everybody's going to stop. They're going to say less. Because when you say less, at least you get
Yes,
less reasons to
exactly.
be sued. So yes, the investors won, but they've definitely sent a very strong
Because
signal.
do you know how many times companies come out and push that positive positive kind of attitude and guidance without having a clear side of view towards how they get there, but with the push and the drive that they'll get there, and eventually they get there,
Yeah,
right? But now,
exactly.
but now what we're saying is if you don't get there and boom and things go AWOL, then you can sue us. So that might push companies not to be as transparent, or that
Yeah,
might push companies not to push let me say transparent, because transparent means I push have disclosed everything right there and then. But that might push companies not to be as bullish as they should as a company, right?
yeah. And think about it, even if they're bearish, other people could also be angry about that. Oh, these guys was too, they were too pessimistic in the
It's so
call.
pessimistic,
Yeah,
yeah.
the data they had available was optimistic. Yeah, was suing them. So it's almost like they're getting so punished for accuracy, and that is scary. I mean, you just rather say less than that. So that's the overall arcane news of that. It was more of, and if you look at it now, Apple's new policy from COVID was we're no more providing forward guidance, right? Because first
Oh,
of all,
the
they use COVID
news?
as an excuse. Yeah, they use COVID as an excuse because COVID was so volatile. Like from this year forward, yeah. And Bezos has been doing that with Amazon for the longest. They're telling people, look, forget about those guardians. Just stay our report when your report comes out. That's it. We're saying less.
Really, but most companies give guidance though. A lot of most
Yeah,
companies.
most companies still give guidance, right? But the bigger ones like Apple, look at how they suffer for it. So they're trying to mitigate against that. And what the people are saying is that this court case, because this is one of the biggest, right, is will send a message down into other smaller companies you get
Yeah.
to because one, it will embolden other investors to
So
overuse this,
companies approach.
right? And then companies on the other side will react by if I was investing in a company, I'll tell them, don't put yourself in that position, don't risk it, right? So that's just what people are saying. That they're saying it may tilt the trend, in the long run, just because of this short swing. It's very
That's
scary.
a very good point. That's a very good point, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's kind of like that Pandora box you just open once you take one step, man. Man,
exactly.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's been settled now. Well, only a matter of time will really show how companies react to this and how investors react to this, right? And
Yeah,
if there's some kind of ripple effect for the entire investment space. Um, but yeah, I just it's just fun to just see Apple bleed so much. Um, Apple bleed so much market cap in the public market, right? Over the past year, a couple of months, like dude, like they're down to like 160 per share. Like, there's still a high cap company. I mean, that's still like over $2 trillion worth, right? But it's just, dude, like they have dropped, man. Like there's just so many things hitting them left, right, center. So in my own head, this is kind of like the same thing that happened with Meta, right? Remember Meta when
Mhm.
they actually botched the metaverse kind of project, right? And our stock dropped to like $88 or something like that. And
Yeah,
everyone was piling on Zuckerberg. Like, dude, like what the hell is going on here? Like, and everyone lost faith in Zuckerberg. They were like, well, Meta as a company, there's no really new line of revenue. There's nothing. Is Facebook is dying, this, that. And the stock dropped down to $88. And those people that were smart enough to buy the stock then, right,
appreciate.
are benefiting from it now, man. There are just some companies that you know they'll find a way out. You just gotta just trust the
Trust
people
them.
with companies. Now, of course, Meta eventually found a way to reduce. I don't think they've completely shut down Metaverse, the whole project, but they've reduced
They've
the.
scaled it back significantly.
They rolled it back significantly. They reduced the spend on that, and they've also focused on growing revenue in the other line on the other projects as well, right? And now look at them; they're like
People heard of
almost like
AI and VR as
last I
well.
checked, it's over 5x from that. I think now it's like 490 something or $500 per share. It just shows how much Meta has grown, man. It's like, golly, man,
Yeah,
that you guys are making money.
yeah.
So now I don't know if Apple has that kind of multiple in them. I mean, they're already over $2 trillion. I don't know if they're going to like quadruple to like 8 point something trillion dollars. But do I see them growing from this one? Absolutely, yes. I mean, like they're bleeding so much right now. But what could that multiple look like? I don't know. I don't know. But for someone who is patient, Apple is not going anywhere, man. Apple is not going anywhere. If anything at all, like if you look at the fundamentals, think about the first principles, right? It's clear to see why you should be buying into the company. This is not financial advice.
It's like, by the way, don't also do class action against me.
Absolutely. It's not financial advice. But it's clear to see why a company can Apple, why a company like Apple could be a good stock right now. Right.
Yeah.
Whenever. But I mean that's a conversation for another day. Um, I think that wraps up what we have for today, right? So
Yes. Yeah.
on a lighter note, I don't know if everyone saw this, but SpaceX. I don't have to just bring this up, man, because I mean a lot of folks are making big moves. It's been a year that's been strictly focused on AI. Everyone be talking about AI, even if there's no AI there, they're sharp putting AI, sha. Um, but I just wanted to just highlight a company that's actually doing something really revolutionary, man. SpaceX. Like this week they actually launched. It was the third test flight for the spaceship, the largest ever flying object in orbit. It was a success, and it's so interesting how clear the video was, right? And it just shows how, as a company, those guys have grown. And of course, well, thanks to Starlink, it just shows how far or how much capitalism can get you. I mean, these are milestones and these are things that NASA could not reach. These are things that Boeing and the other likes of them could not reach, right? But a private company like SpaceX was able to. Man, I mean, like, and don't go me wrong. I know this is part of the project that is signed with the government. I think with NASA as well to get astronauts back to the moon.
Yeah.
But it's also part of Elon Musk's plan to get, I mean,
Man.
to get human to be a multiplanetary species, right? And to get people to Mars. So, but I just think it was really interesting, and now, this is just me just highlighting something. Right? I just think it was really interesting that that within my own time living on this earth that I could see such a huge of a dude, have you seen the pictures of that thing relative to like the size of a human? Dude, that
It's
stuff
crazy.
is
Gigantic.
that stuff
Gigantic.
huge, right? To see that kind of stuff flying into orbit, and they definitely reached orbit this time around. I know they had the first two flights, they didn't reach orbit. But the third one, and it just showed like this, but this is the third test flight. They already reached orbit, dude. Like, I mean, it's funny because in the past, like, I know in the past they required way more than three test flights to get to orbit with the previous smaller spacecrafts, right?
Mhm.
Um, but it feels like now they're finally getting the hang of it. They know how this thing works, right? So it's all about like multiples, right? Okay, you know what? If we add on to this, if we make this a bigger spaceship, then how many rockets do we need? I think the spaceship had like 33 different rockets. And like a rocket is literally one burning object at the bottom of it, right? So I think the spaceship had like 33 different rockets. And it's just all about multiples, right? So if you go bigger, of course, you need more rockets to power it, right? So yeah, I don't dive into the technicalities, but I just thought it was really interesting that they were finally able to reach orbit. And I just want to just highlight that, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else you want to highlight?
Um, no. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Impressive, and I like how we're talking about like the present and what the future could look like. You know, this is how space, I say space. This is how like air travel started. You know, just like the Wright brothers calmly, milestone by milestone.
Exactly.
For now, it's well, on the
Exactly.
cusp of that. I was speaking to someone in his 60s or late 60s 2 days ago, and he was saying that you guys are so lucky self-driving car is starting now that he
Yeah.
thinks it will perfect in the next 2 decades, and by then
Yep.
it's not even
Yep.
active on the road. That he wishes self-driving was like popping in his 30s. That he has so many ideas of what to have done with that. So I
Yeah.
guess we are also in the early stages of space travel, and it feels the same way.
No, that's a very good point. Because you know that there are folks who will say there's always a right time for something, right? Because it's kind of the same thing with AI, or what was previously known as machine learning. I mean, that's not new, right? I mean, people have been working for this for decades. People are working on this for decades, right? Now, of course, the technology has advanced to a level where not just the actual technology itself, but also the hardware to support that is not available, thanks to
Yeah,
NVIDIA, right? Thanks to NVIDIA that actually makes those GPUs and those GPU cards that are ridiculously expensive, by the way. But now that technology can be democratized and made accessible to us through likes
yeah,
of LLMs like ChatGPT and stuff. Um, but once upon a time, decades ago, those that are working on it could not reach that level because the hardware or the system wasn't there to support that. Same thing with self-driving right now, or the self-driving technology. It's still very new today. No one has perfected it yet. There are a lot of startups. Whether you look at the likes of course, Tesla probably the ones in the public, but you have the Mobileye's. You have the likes of I know Argo AI shut down, but you have Cruise as well. You have Zoox as well, a California-based startup that's owned by Amazon. So a lot of these guys that are out there working on this self-driving technology or robo-taxis, as they call them. And eventually they'll get there. But like your friend was saying, maybe 10, 20 years down the line, where we're now like in our 40s and 50s and we have kids, we'll not be telling them, "Hey, back in the day, this was still new technology." But
yeah.
we'll be here for it, man. And it's great to just see it's just great to just see what a free market economy can really get people to do, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that pretty much wraps up the conversations we have for today. Clearly we went over time, but that's bound to happen when we're really having fun. I really enjoyed this. I don't know about you, Edusa. I really
Oh,
enjoyed
sure. Same here, man.
the
Same
conversation,
here.
man. But yeah, guys,
We should do this more often.
absolutely she. Um, but guys, we hope you really enjoyed this. This is our first time trying this new route. So we need your feedback. Let us know what we can improve on. Um, and yeah, please like this, share this. You guys know normal stuff, normal stuff. I'm not going to even repeat myself. Just give this to whoever, I mean, whoever you know, right? Let's spread the love, let's spread the material, let's spread the information. But guys, thanks so much for listening, Edosa. Thank you so much for hopping on this early Saturday morning. It's always a pleasure doing this with you. And yeah, keep on doing this and getting the information out there. But guys, that brings us to the end of today's podcast. Edosa, any final thoughts?
Take it easy, guys. Have a productive week. get a lot of rest.
All right, and that wraps it up. Guys, stay blessed. Have a good week. See you same time next week. Bye-bye.